All right, guys, today's episode is going to be exactly what the Santa Cruz Medicinals Diet is, how to do it, and just how I've been eating this week for an example for you. I get so many questions. People say, how do you eat? What is it? What foods are allowed? And what should I do? How do I actually go about this? What do I do? So we're gonna dive into it, and I'm just gonna run you through like a typical day and kind of what I've been doing this week and how to do it. So to start out with an overview, what is the Santa Cruz Medicinals Diet? It is an animal-based diet, which you can look up what is an animal-based diet. So that's meat, fruit, honey, raw organs to some extent, although I supplement with them. And how I differ is I do eat some vegetables, I eat some white rice, and I eat potatoes. That's gonna be sort of the main difference there. I'm also not opposed to doing some coffee. So that's pretty much the Santa Cruz Medicinals Diet right there, and we'll get into some details right now on how do you do that, what do you do. So the first thing you're gonna want to do is wake up and get a good amount of protein. I like to do that either through a protein shake, sometimes I have bone broth in the morning, and sometimes I have leftover beef, other days I have eggs. That's pretty much the four options that I rotate in the morning. I wake up, I hydrate, with some water, maybe some electrolytes, and then I'm thinking, okay, how am I gonna get my protein in? So oftentimes I'll drink some bone broth and then have a protein shake. Some days I'll make like 3 or 4 eggs and I'll have that. Some days I'll have leftover steak and maybe a little bit of fruit. And when I make my protein shake, I like to throw a banana in there. So I'm getting, a good amount, probably 30 to 40 grams of protein in the morning, a pretty low amount of fat actually, and a small dose of carbohydrates through a little bit of fruit. So that is how I get the day going. So we've just started the day, meat, fruit, maybe some bone broth, and now we're fueled up for the day. Lunchtime is gonna come around 12 or 1 for me, and that's when I'm having basically just protein. I usually don't really load up my carbohydrates until right before the gym, so we'll get into that. So for lunch, I just try to eat a piece of meat. We're really trying to hit that protein goal. So I'll make some lamb chops, I'll make some ground beef, maybe I'll have a little bit of carbohydrates with beef and sweet potato. Maybe if I have a beef stew on the stove, I'll heat that up and have some of that. So it's a pretty protein heavy, rich meal. Sometimes I have eggs. We're just getting more protein in. Sometimes I'll have wild salmon with a little bit of berries. So it's a pretty high protein meal, low in carbohydrates, but still some carbs in there, and that is my lunch. And then I usually am going to the gym. So before the gym, I'll have my creatine and I'll get really hydrated. I'll have some fruit, so I'll eat some like dates or maybe have a banana or an apple on my way to the gym. And then after the gym is when I have probably my biggest meal of the day. That's gonna be around, varies in the time for me, 6, 7, 8 p.m. I'm not really too picky about the time here, and neither should you. That is when I'm going to have a big meal. So that's gonna be, a big serving of protein. We're talking chicken, fish, steak, ground beef, and a big serving of carbohydrates. White rice, sweet potato. Maybe I'll throw a little bit of veggies if the meal, if it makes sense. Maybe a beef stew, and that's gonna have some veggies in there. And that's when I'm just, for me right now, I'm trying to, gain muscle. If anything, I'm eating pretty much as I can right there. If you're trying to cut, you want to make that meal a bit smaller, but that you still want to integrate some carbohydrates there. And then for dessert, that's when I add in some fruit. I'll have a mango, I'll have some berries, I'll have some apple with some honey. I'm gonna start trying to integrate more raw dairy. So that might be when I have some, raw yogurt or something like that. Maybe some raw cheese with that meal for dinner. That is how you do the Santa Cruz Medicinals Diet. That's a typical day right there. So the foods that are allowed, when we get into the proteins, we're talking, good ruminant animal source of proteins are prioritized. I do eat chicken, I do eat fish. I'm not a huge fan of pork, but I will sometimes eat it maybe once, every other week, something like that. That's gonna make up the vast majority of your diet. And how you cook those meats, what fats are you cooking them in? Well, you're cooking them in olive oil, you're cooking them in ghee, you're cooking them in tallow. You're not using seed oils, obviously. And then we get into some of the carbohydrate sources. This is where I differ from Carnivore MD and Liver King to some extent, although he does eat some potatoes. This is basically where I differ from Carnivore MD. I am a fan of sweet potatoes. I'm a fan of even normal potatoes. I'm a fan of white rice. Why am I a fan of those? I feel like a lot of people need those carbohydrate sources. They're pretty low in toxins, and when you prepare potatoes properly especially, they are gonna be lower in oxalates and lectins. Now, if you are really sensitive or if you're trying to fix a gut issue, you might wanna omit these foods, but a common carbohydrate source for me is rice, sweet potato, regular potatoes, purple potatoes, all types. I just typically stay away from the standard white potato because it's a little higher in lectins. And it doesn't really have a lot of those micronutrients like vitamin A and beta carotene that we're going for. It's a little lower in potassium. So I like to do those like purple potatoes, red potatoes, stuff like that. Rice, I go for white rice. White rice is better for you than brown rice. We need to stop this bullshit, stop this myth that brown rice is better. The outer hull of that brown rice actually has a lot of phytic acid. So while they'll do basically a nutrient analysis of it, and they'll go, hey, this brown rice actually has a bit more protein and fiber than white rice, so it's better because protein and fiber is good for you. Thus, brown rice is more nutritious than white rice. What they're not bringing into account is that outer hull of that rice right there. While it does have slightly more minerals, slightly more fiber, it's so rich in phytic acid that it's going to cause gut distress. You're not going to absorb that fiber in any good state for your gut or health. So brown rice is not better for you than white rice. Then people will say, well, the insulin spike with white rice is more than brown rice. If you're a healthy, metabolically fit individual, you should not have to worry about the insulin spike. You should be burning through sugars by working out. Your body should react well to eating foods that are rich in carbohydrates, having some raw honey, whatever it is. You don't want to go crazy with those foods, but you shouldn't have some like hypoglycemic reaction to those. If you do, you should cut out carbs for a bit, focus on weightlifting, focus on getting your metabolic health back, and that won't be the case. So white rice is definitely better than brown rice, so go for that. And then I will eat some vegetables. A lot of people in the animal-based community don't eat any vegetables, and I can sort of see why. The plant defense chemical thing is real. It's not a myth or a joke. It's just about how much do I really think those are going to affect your gut health, your immune health, your skin health, your body's overall health. That's where I differ from Carnivore MD. I'm not so scared of oxalates that I would completely omit vegetables from my diet. I'm a huge fan of carrots. I like bok choy. These are just personal preferences. Zucchini, while technically a fruit, I like zucchini and other squashes. I like bell peppers, doing like some ground beef stuffed bell peppers sometimes. I'll make my stews with onions and carrots. Where Carnivore MD absolutely does have a point with onions, garlic, stuff like that, is they are potent. If you overload your body with those, you can have gut issues. And if you're having gut issues, you might want to try omitting onions and garlic for a little bit. But I don't have any gut issues right now, so I will use some onions, garlic, and stuff like that. Sorry guys, Lance just walked into the house. He has his Chipotle. That is something I would eat too. While the Chipotle definitely has rice bran oil and it's cooked with seed oils, right there it's some rice, some meat, some veggies, so it's totally within the Santa Cruz Medicinals diet. And then we get on to some other carbohydrate sources like fruit. I'm pretty much a fan of any fruit. I like berries, I like mango, I like watermelon. With the amount of fruit that you eat, that's going to depend on your activity level and how you feel. You do not want to be eating tons and tons and tons of fruit. It's just not something that would ever happen in our evolution, or it's not natural in any way, shape, or form. Fruit comes in moderate to small amounts out in nature, so I eat a moderate amount of fruit depending on my activity level. If I have a day where maybe I mountain bike and I go to jiu-jitsu and I'm just like doing a lot of energy that's just burning through calories for me, then I will up my fruit and take a bit. But I'm not like piling on the fruit. It's like, maybe a banana in my protein shake in the morning, maybe some berries, a small serving of berries, maybe an apple for, lunch, pre-workout. And then for dinner, after dinner for my dessert, maybe a mango and another apple, something like that. And I have a pretty good high activity level. I've been a big fan of dates lately. I've been eating dates. I find they're a really good source of potassium, manganese, boron, other micronutrients there. So I'll eat a few of those throughout the day. I am a fan of raw honey in small amounts, and I am a fan of organic maple syrup in small amounts. You want to be careful with those, but you can also use them as a lever. If you're somebody who's trying to get in a lot of calories and bulk, a lot of people say it's hard to bulk on an animal-based diet or the style of dieting that I do. It's not. If you eat rice, potato, fruit, maple syrup, honey, and then you make the bulk of your diet animal sources of protein, you are going to be able to hit high calorie numbers for sure. You just need to get creative with it. Look at some of the recipes in my cookbook and you'll be able to hit that. So that's pretty much what I'm eating throughout the day. I am going to start to use some more raw dairy. We'll do a YouTube video on that. I just, all my genetic tests say that I don't tolerate dairy well, but I'm a little skeptical of that, and I'm going to try to get some raw dairy, and you'll see me start to integrate that more. So if you do well with dairy, get dairy. just get good high quality sources of dairy. It's a really good source oftentimes of protein, some natural sugars in there as well, which are going to be similar to fruit. There's calcium in there, there's vitamin K2, so dairy can be a good source of nutrition. And then if you want to up the calories even more, or use it as a lever if you're trying to lower the calories, fat has a lot of calories. We're talking 9 calories per gram. So with like butter, olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, beef tallow, that is usually the fats I use for cooking. And if you want to get more calories, add some of those in and you'll be pleasantly surprised by how much like a tablespoon or 2 of extra olive oil per day can add to your caloric intake. So that is what I've been doing. That is how I eat. If I'm in a pinch, I'll go towards a snack like an Epic bar or those carnivore snacks that you might have seen me post. Those are good snacks during the day because it's just meat. But the big thing is for this diet, you have to know how to cook. If you need to cheat on your diet, I would recommend going to Chipotle. I would recommend going to In-N-Out and getting like a protein style burger, something like that. But you want to make sure to get those sources of protein where you're not eating a lot of gluten and grains. What this diet doesn't include is a lot of grain, especially glutinous-based grains like wheat. This diet doesn't include foods like oats, which are, oats are for horses. You should feed horses oats. They're rich in phytic acid. They're really not a good food. I know a lot of people love them, and there's going to be studies showing that, we gave oats to some people and there was a benefit. Yeah, if you gave some of the people that I walk by in Walmart some oats, it might benefit them, okay? But it's not really a food that you need to rely on. And this diet doesn't include any processed sugar, seed oils, artificial food dyes, stuff like that. And what you'll notice if you comment below if you've done this diet solidly for 30 days. Just try it for 30 days. That's what I really encourage everyone to do. It's 30 days of your life. It's not that big of an investment. Try it out for 30 days. Hit your protein goal, which is going to be 1 gram of protein per ideal body weight pound. So I said that kind of weird, but you get it. The amount that you want to weigh, you need to eat that many grams of protein per day. I'm trying to add a few pounds of muscle. I weigh like 164 right now. I'd love to weigh like 168, 169. So I'm gonna try to hit that 170 grams of protein per day. If I fall a little bit short and I'm eating 150, I'm fine, all good. But overall, you wanna really sit down, focus on your protein goal. Protein shakes are a great way to do that. So yeah, in another episode, I'll cover some of the supplements that I do during the day. I would recommend supplementing with some type of beef organ supplement. I obviously use our Food of the Gods, as beef organs are extremely nutrient dense and rich in vitamin A, choline, selenium, stuff like that. You can sort of use them like a multivitamin because they are really nutrient dense. And then in the evening, I like to biohack with some supplements that are going to relax me. Magnesium, or CBD deep sleep caps, stuff like that that's gonna kind of bring your body into a state of relaxation. Maybe some ashwagandha in the afternoon or evening, as I've talked about. So overall, with that protocol, that is what I've been doing. A huge part of it is getting outside and exercising and managing stress through movement. But if you aren't eating the foods that are gonna make you feel good and just lower your neuroinflammation, you're gonna be in a state where this stuff seems very hard. If you just commit to doing this diet, as I've said many times, the first 2 weeks are going to be difficult. Your gut bacteria literally craves sugar. There's tons of research on this. Your gut bacteria basically adapts to what you eat and how you live. So if you've been eating a lot of gluten and a lot of sugar, your gut bacteria learns to digest and crave those foods. And when you cut out processed sugar, your body will tell you to eat sugar. It will convince you in any way, shape, or form that it can, and we know our gut controls our serotonin, our dopamine, and a lot of our neurotransmitters. So your body will tell itself to go seek out processed sugar and eat it. Resist it. Just resist it. Do 30 days of the Santa Cruz Medicinals Diet, and I guarantee you will love how you feel. And then you can go back to whatever diet you're doing, and you can use this as just something to go back to when you don't feel well, or you can do it forever like I do. So if you have any questions, let me know below, but that is exactly how I eat. That is the Santa Cruz Medicinals Diet. So yeah, as always, this episode is brought to you by Santa Cruz Paleo. If you want to try our protein powder, look up Santa Cruz Paleo on Amazon. Our electrolytes, dragon fruit and lemon lime, are back in stock, and maybe by the time this episode is out, orange is released. So get our electrolytes and try them out. Let me know how you like them. That's it for today's episode. Leave a comment below with more stuff you want to see me talk about, and I'll check in with you guys in a few days.